What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Alternative Blacks podcast. It is number 43, I believe. If I was actually using the soundboard right, I'm sure we could get a little. Asked if I was playing music. Yeah, let's try that again.
I heard it.
Professional audio. Did you?
Oh my god, yeah, it was like destroying my earbud.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I heard it.
I heard shit. What is this audio speaker?
Hey, man.
What just happened?
I wonder.
Let's see. Let's try this again because I'm about to get funky with it. Let's try this one more time. Hold up. Why do I not hear that?
Wait. Play it and then try to talk over it. Let me see if I can. I can't hear you. When
really?
when that's running, I can't hear you. So it's literally like switching lines on you or something.
But why does that have anything to do with my? All right, cool. I'm sure everyone's enjoying this talk as we're trying to figure out this stuff over the podcast episode. Back to the topic. Today we decided to do a different episode that was originally planned. We had recorded an episode prior to this, but we thought this was nice, timely. We wanted to get in a dedicated Black History Month episode for you guys, so we're doing that. So there's no shout outs, there's nothing on this episode, it's just us, so deal with it.
No, but we had our episode ready, but we figured we wanted to get this in. We thought it was a great idea. It's not something that we tackled last year for Black History Month, so we figured it would be good to just quick jump on and hit this quick episode, really deep dive into some of this history.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for doing the research for this. It was kind of like we had a meeting and we were like, yeah, let's do this. And then we was just like,
when are we going to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Do we want to do this today? Okay, cool. So this is right before Valentine's Day being recorded. It's February 11th. But I'm excited for this episode. But before we get into any of that, beer. That's right. What are you drinking, Chris?
I am drinking today. Sorry. It's a Hidden Hand by Wayfinder. It's a black lager.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I actually did not do that until just now. Wayfinder's out of Portland, Oregon. Black lagers are usually like a solid style. Like, wait, I don't see a lot of them.
Is this out of your Tabor?
It is.
Okay.
It is one of the Tabor because I had another Wayfinder.
We'll see how you guys are doing with support on the show, because if you haven't tried Tabor, I think you should. And we're going to drop both of our affiliate links below in the description. And so we'll see if you decide to use one of our affiliate links, and we'll see who you decided to use. So that'll be interesting. Chris, let me know if you get some extra bonus points for something. So anyway.
Yeah, because I didn't do it for you because I just completely didn't think about it.
I'm trying to think who did though. I have a referral.
Nice. Is it only for your first crate? Is it for your first crate only, or is it just at any point?
At any point, you have a referral code. So I keep dropping them on my YouTube videos, and I think this would be cool to drop on this one. Whenever one of us is actually, I won't drop mine because I'm not drinking a Tabor beer. So if we drink a Tabor beer on a show, we'll drop our link. So Chris, you get first crack at it.
See what you did there. Crack.
Is that a soundbite that we'll end up using? Is there a crack soundbite?
The Stephen A. Smith, and he was on crack.
Speaking of being on crack, Tom Brady looked like he was on crack.
Oh my God, yeah, that was nuts. God, let's not even get into that. Tyler, what are you drinking?
I am drinking because it is right before Valentine's Day. And if you were watching the live, that's exactly the same thing that I am drinking on this episode is the Love City Double Eraserhood Hazy IPA. Now, they have a Eraserhood, which is their regular IPA. And I think there's history behind it. The name, I don't necessarily love the name because it sounds like another word for gentrification. But I gotta take a look into that, do more research. But I love City, and
not for long apparently.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Just
Eraserhood's a really good beer, and I didn't think it could get much better. But they decided to like go ahead, they dried hop it. That's why you get that look to it, that hazy look. And their beer went from like a 7.2% to 9.3.
Wow.
So cheers. This gets like a 5.
Wow. Okay. So you're going 5 off the rip?
Look, and when you drink this, you don't get that, at least because I might be an alcoholic, you don't get that boozy flavor that you usually get once you start hitting those higher, like once you start getting closer to double digits. Sometimes that can come with that like boozy element to it where you're just getting that like rubbing alcohol flavor.
Right. It's not necessarily dryness. It's just like, am I drinking a mixed drink or am I drinking a beer?
Right. And this one, it's juicy.
It's juicy. I didn't rate mine yet. The black lager. This is really solid. I want to say I've had maybe slightly better black lagers, but I would definitely go a 4.25 on this one for now. Maybe by the end of it, I'll probably bump it up, but right now 4.25.
My ratings on Tavour are so much better than my ratings on Untapped in terms of like my percentages, because Tavour has been like doing the damn thing. Like the beers that I've gotten have been consistently like great, and I think it's because being able to choose specifically what you want.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of handpicking what you want, and you can go and do the research on them a little bit more, even more than what they have. And they have really good descriptions on there.
Yeah. Wait, can you add friends on this? These are the questions.
These are the questions that need to be asked
on the show.
Yeah, specifically on the show.
Anyway, I just got really distracted by that thought. I was like, let me see this.
Tavour. Or Tavor. Or Tavour.
Tavour. All right. So do you want to start with your sample, or should I before we get into the episode?
Yeah, I'll run my sample here. It is You Are I Am from Manfred Mann's Earth Band, 1979. I'm just going to hold it up to my headphone here.
Kanye West.
Yes. But what song? because assuming it's Kanye West, like it doesn't narrow it down at all. You know what I mean? Like that was the easy part. Want me to run it back real quick?
Yeah, run that one more time.
Okay. And it's the strings there, the kind of the bellowing strings in the background there. Need a hint?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I'm going to get this one.
Okay, this one features a shit ton of people. It's from 2010.
Monster.
Right album, wrong song.
Oh, it's not So Appalled.
It is So Appalled.
Yeah, there it is. I was just like, I heard it. Yep. As soon as. Yep. There they are. Holy shit.
Sometimes I mean ridiculous.
That's great. I like that sample. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's Kanye at his finest.
Yeah, that's an awesome sample. That's an awesome song, and it's so ridiculous.
It's like that sometimes.
I mean ridiculous. Is that what you meant, Swiss?
All right, hold up. Let me get into mine. Let me take these headphones off.
All right.
I got you. All right. So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Sorry, I thought you were playing. I thought you were about to play the sample. So I'm like,
oh no, I was just making sure you could actually, in fact, hear me.
Yes.
I needed to hear you. All right, cool. So this is the Far Side. It's Why Be Like That JD remix by Drop Why Be Like That Delicious Vinyl 1996. Interesting. Wait, hold up. This makes no fucking sense. Okay, cool. So we're gonna have to talk about this. I did not look at all this, but it's from the Far Side. Why? Okay, yeah, we're gonna roll with it. Anything that we play is usually off of who sampled. So if something is in fact wrong, blame them, not us. Here we go.
the first BET cipher. No. It's a little hard to hear it. I hear mostly the drums. Ooh, I don't know if I know this.
It's that little synthy part at the beginning. Did you hear that?
I'll run that back. Is that a... Wait, is it the boing 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 boing, or is it the doom doom? Like
yeah, is that boing boing? It's a little bit of both. They all come into play.
Wait. It's not electric relaxation, is it?
No.
Okay. Oh man, yeah, I need a hint.
Oh, okay. So it was released in '97, although this guy wasn't around.
What?
That's a big hint.
You said it's released in '97, although
this guy wasn't around.
Although this guy wasn't around? This is probably going to be one of those ones where I'm like, damn, how could I have not gotten that hint? So is the name of the song someone's name?
No, I was giving you a hint of the artist.
It was 97, but he wasn't around. Tupac?
There you go.
What song is that though? Wow, I'm blanking on that.
All right, here we go. I'm going to play the song.
Turn it up loud.
Is that Dear Mama? What is that? What song is it? It kind of yeah, I can't really hear it now. There we go. Oh.
It's Do for Love.
Oh God. Yo, it's weird with Tupac, like I know a lot of his songs, but it's like for some reason I don't know a lot of the song names. Like I always forget the song names.
Yeah, so that was a really interesting one for me because it's that like early that it's a little bit, it's the drums, it's the but it's like lights and in the background. I think that's actually a really good Tupac sample. I love the samples that are like really hidden.
You mean what do you mean like it's not just we took this piece and now it's the beat?
Right, exactly. It's not in your face, not in the front of things. Like was it Sweetie's Tap In, which is Blow the Whistle?
Yeah, but I mean that's not
better
even
than
a sample as much as like that's more of like an ode song, like where like it's the beat.
Right, it is the beat, exactly. It wasn't really remastered and put into anything. We're seeing a couple of those happen recently.
Yeah, like Meg Thee Stallion's
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Or
what is it?
Yeah, and the
Girls in.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the name of the song.
I actually really fuck with that song though. It's a good song.
Or the Biggie song that
Barbie Dreams.
Nicki Minaj, yeah.
That's
Nicki Minaj
too.
did.
She did a really
things of that nature, yeah.
Which they actually do good jobs. Like with I think those are something
they do a good job.
Yeah, they do a good job with the little homage to older stuff. Some samples are lazy or just downright biting. Drake.
Aubrey.
Yeah, Aubrey. All right, we're not there yet. That's when we get Alyssa on the show. That's when we do the Drake episode.
Oh my
gosh. What? We need to do a roundtable discussion for that. Like we're gonna get a lot of people, and we're gonna just pass the mic.
There's a lot of opinion. It's like a very split group of people.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be a quick episode, and we're already like not even talking about Black History Month. So,
well, to get into the topic, Black History Month. So we wanted to kind of discuss the history of Black History Month. Whoa. And right, Inception, and kind of just go through its origins in America and how it came to be, and then kind of just go off of that in terms of what does that mean for us, and a few other questions that I have regarding the topic. So just wanted to kind of run through a quick history of Black History Month. And the story that I read up on started with, Carter G. Woodson would be kind of the precursor, the forefather of Black History Month. He I believe he was the son of slaves. So this is back in the early 1900s. He attended a 50th anniversary, or was it? Yeah, 50th anniversary of the emancipation of the slaves, right? Was it 50 or 15th? 1915. That would have been 15th, right? Because the emancipation of the slaves, the actual emancipation and the abolition of slavery was that 1905? Back from our Constitution episode.
Wait, the emancipation? We're not talking about the proclamation, or
not the proclamation itself. We're talking the constitutional abolition of slavery. What year was that again?
Let's take a look. I keep seeing 1865, so this does feel like 50.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense then. I don't know why I was getting 50 and 15th confused in my head. It's been a long day, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. At any rate, he was at that celebration. It was held in Chicago by the state of Illinois, and it was like a 3-week celebration of the history of Black people to that point. And he was so inspired by that celebration that he went back home to DC and founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Okay, and that would be in September of that same year, 1915. They basically dedicated their their efforts to Black history and achievement. So they're basically the forefathers of remembering Black history, and they found it very important to have a heritage, and they understood the importance at the time of the fact that, hey, our heritage was stripped from us, and we find this important, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to celebrate, research Black achievement. So Carter G. Woodson sponsored the first National Negro History Week in 1926, and he chose the second week of February, which coincided with Abraham Lincoln's birthday, which was the 12th, and Frederick Douglass's birthday, which was the 14th. And the reason that he chose February in general wasn't just because of those two birthdays. It was the fact that celebrations had already been going on for years before that, with Black people celebrating Abraham Lincoln's birthday and, of course, Frederick Douglass's birthday. So there was already a tradition built there. So choosing that week, he wanted to kind of expand the celebration from, hey, we're going to celebrate these two men, into, hey, we're going to celebrate our people as a whole. So we're expanding it now. So the week, and that was in 1926 now, that week was celebrated for the better part of the next 50 years, 40 years probably. Getting more into the 1960s is when we start to see the expansion into a whole month. So I pulled this excerpt from the website for the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which is the same organization that Carter G. Woodson founded in 1915. They just now exist as the ASALH instead of the ASNLH. They removed the word Negro, basically, and replaced it with African American, kind of getting up with the times back in the 60s. This was one of the ways that they did it. But I pulled this excerpt kind of on how it went from just being celebrated as a week to being celebrated as a full month, and being expanded that way. So it says, in the 1960s had a dramatic effect on the study and celebration of Black history. Before the decade was over, Negro History Week would be well on its way to becoming Black History Month. The shift to a month-long celebration began even before Dr. Woodson's death. As early as 1940s, Blacks in West Virginia, a state where Woodson often spoke, began to celebrate February as Negro History Month. In Chicago, a now forgotten cultural activist, Frederick H. Hammurabi, started celebrating Negro History Month in the mid-60s, having taken an African name in the 30s. Hammurabi used his cultural center, the House of Knowledge, to fuse African consciousness with the study of the Black past. By the late 60s, as young Blacks on college campuses became increasingly conscious of links with Africa, Black History Month replaced Negro History Week at a quickening pace. Within the association, which was the association that started Negro History Week, younger intellectuals, part of the awakening, prodded Woodson's organization to change with the times. They succeeded in 1976, 50 years after the first celebration. The association used its influence to institutionalize the shifts from a week to a month, and from Negro history to Black history. And then since the mid-70s, every American president, Democrat and Republican, has issued proclamations endorsing the association's annual theme. And President Gerald Ford was the first to recognize it officially in 1976. And then there's some international Black History Months as well. The UK started celebrating a Black History Month in 1987, and theirs is in October. Germany had celebrated a Black History Month in Berlin, specifically. Berlin, Germany was celebrating a Black History Month because of the large Black population in Berlin. They celebrated it in February since about 1989. Canada, the House of Commons first recognized a February Black History Month in 1995, and then the Senate later in 2008. Ireland in 2010, they celebrate in October, and the Netherlands was also listed in October, but I couldn't get a year for them, and it was kind of annoying trying to look for that information because it should have just been like a quick Google search, and it's like so hard to find information on this.
Black History Month in other countries.
In other countries, yeah, it took a little digging, and it was quite annoying. I still don't know when the Netherlands actually started theirs, but
oh, you know what? Hold up. Give me a second. I'm sorry. But that's really interesting. Thank you for doing that research. The reason I just paused is because Beer Quest TV, Chris, right? He's in Amsterdam.
Oh yeah, that's right. He is in Amsterdam.
So maybe we can hit him up, see if he has any input or has any knowledge on that, and maybe we can get him on a show as we try to make this. We keep saying this year is about getting guests in. We assure you.
Yeah,
we're working on updating the website. We've made a lot of changes. The last change to come is going to be adding a feature so that guests could log in and schedule an interview date. So it's coming.
In the works. It's in the works.
In the works. No, thank you, Chris, so much for that information. I think that's really important. This is a conversation that gets brought up almost every year. I kind of see this stuff floating around on Instagram, Facebook, and different social media channels of trying to understand where Black History Month came from, why it was initially just a week, which moved into a month. Because I think the joke has always been like, oh yeah, we get the shortest month.
Yeah, you get the shortest month, blah blah blah. But
I understand how it happened. Now, still sucks, but
yeah, and what's interesting to me about it is, you know, Carter G. Woodson kind of had some of the same complaints back then that we have now for kind of just activism in general. And we talked about commodification, you know, of this activism in a recent episode. And he was lamenting it even back then in the 1930s for the same kind of thing. Here's a week that we have to celebrate and commemorate Black achievement, and people are coming in and just hijacking it for their own personal gain and to look good in the movement type of thing. So even back then, you still had this exact thing going on that we are experiencing today, except now it's so ingrained in the system to just say the politically correct thing. You know, you can kind of hide back in that and just, we're going to say it. We're not going to do anything about it, but we'll say it, you know, just do it. You know, we're with you, Colin. What?
No, that was the perfect one to use, especially after the Super Bowl and seeing that advertisement about especially showing NFL players kneeing, and just it's kind of a slap in the face, I think, for Colin Kaepernick, and maybe we'll discuss that on the live. So if you're listening to this episode, we may have already discussed this, but yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point, and it's so interesting. People say this all the time, but like nothing that's happening is new in regards to what we're talking about. Somebody commodifying a movement, trying to explain to people that still don't get it, you know, trying to give them examples and trying to give them information to kind of understand what is being discussed. That information has existed for decades. It becomes willful ignorance at some point. in my mind at least. But
yeah, definitely.
You have a few questions here as we're rounding this episode. Like we're not rounding it out. We're rounding the your bullet points, and we can get into the discussion.
Yeah.
Point of this now. I think these are really good questions.
The meaty part of the episode.
Shire Farm.
Ooh.
Go Meats.
Go Meats. So the first question that I wanted to just ask is, how well was Black History Month taught? How well was it, how well was it given to us growing up in schools? I mean, you seem to have more vivid memories about certain things that we learned in school than I did. For some reason, it seems like every time we go back and talk about something, you have all these details on certain things that I just can't seem to ever remember. So I wanted to get your take on that.
I remember specifically in high school getting kind of fed up with Black History Month. I think I was very much so. It's just like Black History Month in high school, I think actually pissed me off because of the fact that we weren't discussing anything. Besides our African American history class that we took, Black History Month would come around and nothing was geared to Black history. And I would be okay with that if everything else that was being taught was coinciding with was deliberately discussed on the impact of Black people during those time periods. Like Black history was never talked about in conjunction with history unless it was slavery or the civil rights movement.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only time Black history tended to exist in conversation in school. And I think that's where I started getting frustrated because now now in high school, we're not acknowledging that Black people existed and the problems or the struggles or the barriers that people were overcoming or fighting during those time periods. And we weren't even taking those dedicated months to learn about it. And the most that you might get is an assembly about it. Or the real slap in the face was when it was the Dominican Independence Day celebration in the auditorium, and they wanted to stick a "No Blacks Allowed" sign on the fucking auditorium door.
Yeah, well, first of all,
talking about anti-Blackness.
Yeah, first of all, yeah, if we want to go there, the Dominican Republic itself as a country has a horrific history with
Black history.
Colorism. And still does, because they're extremely racist towards their island mates across on the other side of the mountain range. So that's still, that's still a thing. Oh, great! You were oppressed by a Spanish-speaking country instead of a French-speaking country, so you're somehow better. I don't know, because the Haitians actually fought back much better and you assimilated more, so somehow you're better because listen, it's ridiculous. Be that as it may,
that's neither here nor there.
And we're gonna leave that where it is.
No, just trying to think back to Black history. Even I was just talking with Kaylee today about I took an African Americans in film and television class in college. And I had this old Jewish lady teaching the class. And I don't know why I just now was sitting back and thinking, I was like,
that doesn't sound right. That doesn't feel right. But you know what? I had an African history class in college. It was taught by a white dude. Like mid-30s white dude.
Yeah, I mean, again, if someone wants to teach the history, great. It needs to be taught, and I'm glad there's people that are willing and able to discuss it. But at the same time, I think it leads to question. There was like, oh, there was nobody else that could talk about this. And then it goes to, oh, are you only putting somebody in the class to like actually talk about this? Because there's a lot. It's a deep rooted like talking point. Like, this is, who do you put into this class to talk about this? Because our African American history teacher in high school was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And white.
And like trilingual. Because he was more just down. He was just down for the people.
He is one of my favorite teachers. Don't remember his name. One of my favorite.
Starts
teachers.
with an H. I know that. I think.
He had that like fucking.
Yeah, he had the beard and the long ponytail. Hair.
He was like Mr. Hughes done right. For reference, for anyone who doesn't get what I just said, Mr. Hughes was an English teacher. God bless his soul. He's not dead or anything. Just like
God
Jesus, bless his soul.
That's why.
Right.
God bless his soul because he's Jesus.
But there was so many problematic things with him. My favorite though is being like, Mr. Hughes, because you're forcing us to do poems and do poetry out loud. I want to do A Negro Speaks of Rivers. Tyler, you can't do that. You're not black.
Oh man, that was a great
Which is
one.
why we have a podcast called Alternative Blacks Podcast, because of the trauma.
Specifically that moment. My favorite Mr. Hughes moment has to be that I'd let my kids listen to Nas. Because of that one song, I know I can be what I want to be.
Like I found any excuse to play rap music in a class. It's like, oh yeah, this is relevant for my project. Let's listen to Nas.
Yeah.
As I drink my beer.
Oh, this is relevant. This is relevant for our project on Julius Caesar. So let's put some Slick Rick into it.
Slick Rick
and some Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
Yeah.
That was great. But
that was A project.
It was classic. What was your take on Black history through?
Well, that's why I had the question, because I don't remember much of it. It just seems like it's very vague, and it kind of just feels like they just put a few pictures of like MLK and Frederick Douglass and Rosa Parks up on a in like the hallways and stuff, and like that's kind of it.
Watch the same cartoons, the same documentaries. Mr. Grubb decided to play Malcolm X for us, I think, which was actually, that was traumatizing. I cried. I remember crying in class. And I was just like, why the fuck did we just do that? Because it was the get your hand out my pocket moment, and it was the shooting at the Audubon. I was like, I'm literally shaking in class. Like, why are you making me relive this moment? Like, I know the history. I know this stuff. Why do I have to watch it? So it's the same question like when we were talking about the Ahmaud Arbery case and having to watch the video because it's put on our timelines without our consent, right? Which you're seeing social media channels becoming a little more sensitive in terms of this content contains sensitive material. Are you sure you want to watch it? It's that kind of conversation. But you know what I remember the most about Black History Month? Crossword puzzles. I remember getting a little sheet of
of key terms,
Black history facts. Here's a crossword puzzle. Can you find the Black history leaders? But what were you really learning about Marcus Garvey? What are you learning about some of these more radical things? Why aren't you taught so much about Malcolm and Martin being polar opposites in their ways of thinking, but never discussing the moments where their views and beliefs started aligning a lot more? So, I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. A lot of that conversation needs to be had. And I don't believe that we, as an American education system, really hit that well enough. And we had that whole conversation. We had a whole episode based off of how are we graded on teaching Black history throughout America. And it's not, we don't do well as a country.
No. So like you said, I can't remember much of anything on it. And that's kind of why I asked that question to open up, because I can be like bad with remembering certain things like that. You seem to have a much more vivid memory of those things, especially because I remembered watching Malcolm X. I just didn't remember where we were watching it. So that that right there, I was like, well, maybe I'm just misremembering. Maybe I just forgot. But yeah, I guess it's about as good as I thought it was. So moving on, the education, not the movie.
Yeah, I know. I just meant it sounded like you were also talking about your memory. No, it's as bad as I thought my memory was.
No, that too.
Yeah. Next question.
Moving on. Do you believe more should be done other than a history month?
Yeah, I think I did speak upon this with answering the last question. It's again talking. I think one of my favorite graphics that pops up ever, and I don't think this is actually a graphic that pops up to talk about the issue of how poorly Black history is taught. I think it's more of a like, wow, this is gonna sound like a fucked up thing. It's like think about how bad the Holocaust was. It's the Anne Frank and Martin Luther King are the same age. They were born in the same year.
Yeah.
That I might be wrong, but that graphic often comes up, I think, to say like Holocaust wasn't that long ago. When in reality, to have that conversation is to be like, Holocaust wasn't that long ago. Slavery wasn't that long ago. Civil rights was not that fucking long ago. And the fact of the matter is Black history is only spoken about really in regards of slavery, civil rights, sports accomplishments.
Right. And then like a few firsts when we're getting really tricky.
When you get the first, but then it's like first goes away. First goes away.
Yep.
What about the in-between times?
Right, where there's still achievement happening. I mean, a lot of the people we learn about in history weren't the first to anything. They were just good at what they did, and they left a mark and an impact. And there's so many holes in history that, when you go back and look at, what your perception of history was when you graduated high school, it's hard to place some of the stuff as being at the same time.
Right.
It's hard to think. And I know for us, we're so young in this sense that, the civil rights movement was well before we were born. However, it's only the generation away from us.
I think about that a lot. Like I think about my dad being maybe 3 when Martin Luther King was killed.
Yeah.
And that just like it really sticks out to me. It's just like, that's crazy, because like thinking about we were 3 when Tupac, like having that type of like marker or that type of like reference point is just
right.
Like, think about that. It's nuts to me to think about how close that is to us.
Yeah, and then you think about the things that Tupac was complaining about versus the things that Martin was complaining about, and you see that they're pretty much the same exact thing.
Well, we were talking about Nas, right? And I go back and I think about the Damian Marley album, and there's the Road to Zion. That record, if you haven't heard it, I'll drop the link in the description. But a lot of those talking points, Nas was referring to talking points that was being talked about before him, and a lot of those same talking points are relevant now. It's just like basically like blacks are still up in the prison. Now, why is that? Like it's questioning the prison industrial complex, and
it's only gotten worse.
It's only gotten worse. And when you talk about questioning the prison industrial complex, that's directly related to questioning slavery. Because what happens? You abolish slavery, and then you say, except for if you're arrested. By the way, arrest all the niggers.
Yeah, right. Because if you're arrested, you're not part of our society.
Now you are, you're a slave again.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so, with that in mind, the fact that, yes, the History Month is important, but I think we've kind of lost, at least in terms of just like a mainstream thought in society, we've kind of lost the spirit of what it was to be once upon a time. The month was supposed to be an actual celebration, and it's really just turned into, oh, I guess it's time to learn about Black people for a day, once a week or something. It certainly doesn't exude the celebration that it may have once had. And obviously there's many celebrations that go on still within the Black community, but I think it's kind of incumbent upon us to push the narrative forward, to the rest of the population, that this stuff is American history. And maybe is that the place of Black History Month, or should Black History Month be what it is, and should there be another month perhaps where it's more about pushing the history forward into the forefront and actually melding it with American history?
I don't think it's another month. I think that's just what curriculum should be. I think that's what an honest conversation about our history should be. I talked about this before. I really did not like going and visiting the Liberty Bell again, because I went and I was reading all this stuff. I was like, this is fucking great. But look what we're talking about here. We're talking about George Washington freed his slaves, but the ones that were still enslaved to Martha were still enslaved to Martha, and to act as if those weren't the same slaves, to act as if it wasn't at least the same family members, which means that you couldn't truly be free unless it's like those, like,
yeah, it was a bunch of posturing. It's the same thing that they did with the Constitution.
Yeah. And so I guess
posturing.
What I'm trying to get at is the fact that, I think Black history needs to be more ingrained into, it is ingrained. It needs to be shown how ingrained it is into the actual fabric of America. And I think that would start to help. I don't think it would actually solve anything, but I think it would start to help. But yeah, I think if you start doing that, and the Rosa Parks stories, the Martins, the Malcolms, the Garveys, like all these people, all the fucking everybody, it would start to actually allow Black History Month to be a celebration more than a history lesson.
Right. It's,
and to
to
quote the great Kanye West, I make Black history every day. I don't need a month.
I thought you were gonna quote him on, if I get bleach in my t-shirt, I'm gonna feel like an asshole.
Asshole, yeah. Well, that too. I think it's very I would actually rather see Black History Month be less about, I would like a shift. I would like another shift. I would like it to no longer be Black History Month, because I think that's also the title of it gives permission. Gives permission for history to only be taught within that month. And I'd rather become Black Celebration, or like something that's more about like Black Pride Month.
Well, see, here's where and this is where I kind of hit on my second to last and then last question here, to kind of finish off our discussion. Not that we have to cut it, but just these are the last two things I really wanted to hit upon. And this idea that we've been going at for a couple of minutes now is, the origin now right? We just went over the origin. Does it change your perspective on what it's trying to do? And that's kind of why I asked the question right before it of, should this be in its place? And should there be something else in a different paradigm? Like, and I asked that because for me, I'm thinking, okay, you're right. We do need to kind of shift the paradigm of Black History Month. The way we think about it now just isn't going to do much of anything in terms of making the change and actually celebrating anything, because it's just kind of more, here's some textbook information, and it's not really being celebrated everywhere like it needs to be, right? And like you said, maybe we do a Black Pride Month that isn't a history month, because you could do Black Pride Month, say, in June, right? That'd be cool. But I think there's a place for the History Month. In some places, it's not called Black History; it's called Black Heritage Month. And the paradigm being, or the implication being, that it's supposed to be a time of remembering and chronicling our heritage as a people. It doesn't have to do with how it's supposed to be perceived from the outside world. This right here is our time to celebrate us together. Right now, we are going to go and we're going to remember all of the great achievements that our people have that our people have achieved, because we need to keep remembering our heritage, and we need to keep our traditions alive. Because the whole worry and the whole instigation for this thing was, we need a heritage, we need a history. A people without a history, or people without a heritage, are lost in the eyes of a lot of people.
People without history are doomed to repeat it. Like, you're doomed to hold on. I have a quote in my room about a people without knowledge of their roots, and it's a Garvey quote.
Yeah, the one quote I found from Carter G. Woodson that I wasn't thrilled about was like, and I'm trying to look it up to see if it was an actual attributable quote or not. And it was about this idea of, we need to keep a record of our history. We need a tradition, because people who don't have a tradition are lost, or are lost people.
I don't mind that.
And that's not the quote. I'm trying to find the quote, because he likened our situation potentially to Native Americans. Ooh, at the time.
Interesting.
But it was not in a good way.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the Garvey one. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. And I think that's the big one. It's like, what, especially when you're talking about long history like that. So when you talk about like mighty oak trees and stuff like that, right? Where you talk about deep rooted trees. A tree without roots, something that has this long history but has no foundation, has nothing that is being able to stick into the ground and pull from. A windy day takes you out.
Right. Yeah. And I like that analogy. I do see the importance of keeping up with heritage and tradition, and being proud of something, and kind of having the expectations set upon you to lead a certain life standard. I think that is important. And then you are pooling the wealth of knowledge, that you've built from your ancestors, and you're pushing forward with that. So I do see that as important. Sometimes I don't know exactly how important it really needs to be in terms of like family line lineage all the way back. And sometimes I feel like while it's nice to know, how important is it to know that my family needs to go back so far? And I kind of struggle with that a little bit. And this heritage, Black History Month and the idea of heritage kind of brought that idea back around to me. It was like, I understand the fact that you should be able to know where you came from, and that could have a profound impact, in some ways. But I think it's more important as a people to see how influential you are as a Black body, more so than, I can trace my lineage back to here. Because, I think we get really mixed up in terms of family lineage, and I don't know how important that is in the grand scheme of, say, the Black race, the diaspora. The understanding that history is more important. And, they intertwine quite a bit, I'm sure, in terms of, hey, if I knew I was from this particular tribe in West Africa, per se, what would that teach me? How would I go back and learn from them? But at the same time, I could also just be open to learning about these different places in Africa and these different traditions in Africa and still learning from them.
Right.
And I think it's more important to learn about the people as a whole rather than, say, just one lineage.
Right. And I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up that we can expand upon in maybe some future episodes. But talking about, I feel like sometimes there's this discord between Africans and African Americans. Like there's often
there's a disconnect there for sure.
Huge disconnect, and sometimes, like, because of the perception of Black people, there sometimes is that conversation like, oh no, I'm African, I'm not Black, right? And I was like, oh no,
no, you're Black.
That's them.
Yeah.
So there's that conversation, but at the same time, I was also thinking when you were just speaking, I was just like, I love Black culture and what Black people have done in terms of creating this self-identity for themselves because of the stripped identity that was taken from all of us throughout slavery. Because that was part of slavery, let's take the different tribes and mix them together so that they have a harder time to communicate with each other. There's less likely of a chance for them to be able to collectively go against people because of the fact that there is a harder time to whatever, these different thoughts and fucked up things that were going on, right? But I think what is cool, what I've loved seeing throughout time then, is to create Black culture and then to see what Black culture, how it impacts the world.
Specifically Black American culture. And then not even just Black American culture, but Black wherever they were moved to culture.
And it's so impactful. And I feel like in some racist, like, fucked up person's mind, they can take that, like, see what we did for you guys, right? But I think that also does speak to character of Black people, and just
that is our tradition. It's creating something out of nothing, I think, is what it comes down to. And maybe that's kind of where I come into it with the question of going further back. It would be fantastic to know exactly where we came from in Africa. But at the same time, I think there's been such a drastic change and shift with the mid-Atlantic slave trade that we are essentially a new people, right? Black American history isn't exactly African history anymore, because of the fact that we were stripped of our history and our heritage, we had to create that something anew. So while I think my point earlier was more towards like an individual, like, man, what if I found out that I personally am from this particular tribe? Like, what is that? Does that really do something for me? Because I already know I came from this area because of the trade.
And to answer quickly before we wrap up the show, I think, yeah, no, I would, I have like an ancestry, like cotton swab, like government's going to trace me type shit that I need to do. And I'm really excited because I would love to see on my dad's side, like where I'm from. And I think, again, I think it would be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Going forward too. I don't know. As I'm getting closer to an age where I'm contemplating like having kids, right?
Man, we're
like,
getting old.
I know.
You?
My last name. Like, I don't know if that's something that I truly want to hold on to anymore. And it's because my black side of the family are Washingtons. And I just don't know if that's something that I want to pass on. Because I remember making those jokes as a kid, and like, yeah, I'm George Washington's great grandson.
Whatever. And it's, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, actually, you might be. Yeah.
My family's from like Virginia.
Wow, what was in Virginia, Tyler?
Like
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And do you want to go there? Is the question. It's like the struggle for me. It's like, do I really want to go there? Do I really want to know back to the point where I'm pushing that invisible void that you're never going to know the answer? Or do I take it back maybe as far as I know I have it and celebrate what I know was the case and what great strength was, and it was shown to kind of overcome that to get to me where I am today. So when I think about, with all that being said, when I'm thinking about Black History Month, I'm thinking about it's time to sit back and really celebrate everything that Black Americans have done for ourselves in this country. And if we want to make it as a celebration of heritage, I don't know that we need to necessarily rethink Black History Month in terms of the way we perceive it now, in terms of a paradigm shift. We should definitely be more serious about it as a whole. But I think we could either add a month or just continue the work all the time to really drive home the point that, hey, this is American history, not just Black history.
I think right there's the perfect point to kind of wrap the show up on. I really enjoyed this episode. I hope everybody else got something from it the way that we did. Answer some of the questions that Chris was asking for yourself. I think you did a really good job of putting this episode together. Yeah. Oh, this is the first episode we can actually make the shout out. We upgraded our intern. She is now officially the producer of the show. While she might not have produced this specific episode, going forward, she's going to have a much larger role, which is actually not true. She's going to have the same role. We're just acknowledging the work that she's been putting in.
Yeah, definitely. She's already produced multiple episoals.
But if you want to get involved with the show, please reach out to us. You can do it through any means, but check us out on tylerelliswashington.com/ABP. There's a join the team section, or you can just check us out on Instagram, DM us, do whatever. However you think you can contact us, do that. We need specifically podcast engineer, someone who's going to help with the audio. We also need, sorry, I just got a weird message on my computer. We would also love somebody to help with our social media. So if you can spend some time and just dedicate it to, even twice a week is more than we actually dedicate to our channel. So that would be 100% just welcomed. And if neither of those apply to you or applicable to you, hit us up. We still need people. And if you think you can bring value to the team, you're probably right.
Yeah.
We need value.
We need great value.
Speaking of value, you could also support the show on Patreon. So thank you for listening to the Alternative Blacks podcast. Next episode will actually be our mix and match episode. So that will finally get produced. That will finally get put out. And that will be a hootenanny of a time.
It's a hootenanny.
That was a hootenanny?
Yeah.
Anyways,
hoedown.
Yeah, we are getting dangerously close to the Instagram live for today. So
till next time.
Peace.